Hey guys, this is Mario again, coming at you with another movie review. Today's review is a film that got nominated at last year's Oscars for a bunch of awards. It got nominated for 10 in total. Best Picture, Best Director, Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Actor in a Leading Role, Best Actress in a Supporting Role, which I'll get to that one in a bit in this review, Best Art Direction, Best Cinematography, Best Costume Design, Best Sound Mixing, and Best Sound Editing, which of them I'm checking to see which one, if it won any. Okay, it doesn't look like it did not win any of them, which, yeah, I remember that was one of the things I did not like about that Oscar, but still. The movie, of course, is the Coen Brothers directed film starring Jeff Bridges, True Grit. Now, of course, a lot of you people know that this is, some people call this a remake, which is not right, considering other than it being an adaptation of the same source material. It has nothing to do with the John Wayne film. So once again, readaptation would be the more correct term, unless it is definitely a remake of the film itself and not another adaptation of the book. Remake would not apply. And of course, first off, I think I should talk about the Coen brothers, because from what I hear, depending on their film, they're hit or miss, because I know they did a film in the 90s, which a couple of my buddies don't like, called Fargo. Then of course they did follow that up with the film that everybody talks about when it comes to Jeff Bridges, The Big Lebowski, I Am the Dude, which I still need to watch that film. It sounds like it's going to be a fun film. And of course they did that movie I've heard of a while ago, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? And of course The Lady Killers, which I really want to do. And of course their other Oscar-nominated film, actually I think this was an Oscar-winning one, No Country for Old Men, which is actually over down there. Not my DVD, it's my grandmother's. I gotta watch it. Burn After Reading, which I don't remember much about that one. And of course, Serious Man, among others. And this was their only film that I've actually seen in the theater, and I have to say I'm actually glad I saw it now. You guys remember? I don't remember when it was I said it, but it was a while ago that I mentioned that I'm not really the biggest fan of westerns, or I wasn't. But now that I'm older, I'm starting to get more into them. Hold on. Hello. I know, I don't forget. Let me do it by my grandmother, making sure I don't remember to wake my brother, because yes, it is the morning when I do this and he's still asleep. Now, where was I? Oh yeah, not the biggest fan of westerns, but as my mind is getting, as I'm getting older, I'm starting to, like film genres that I might not have liked as a kid. And westerns seem to be growing on me a little bit, and this is an example of one. Of course, this is probably an example I might have liked even as a kid. And watching this movie in the theater and watching it again, I have to say, it's one of those films that I watch again, and I'm like, yeah, it still holds up, I still enjoy it. I don't know how many other films from recent years might do that, but I know this is one that definitely does. Now, of course, to talk about the John Wayne film, I haven't seen the John Wayne film that much, but from what I've read and some of the reviews I've watched, it's a good film from what I hear, if you can watch old westerns and don't mind the pacing and stuff. But because of the time period that it was made in, it kind of does have that feel of normal westerns. For one, John Wayne's character saves the day like normal. He rides off into the sunset like in any John Wayne movie, which there's nothing wrong with that, because John Wayne, it's the Duke. And of course, we all know he won the Oscar for his role as Rooster Cogburn in the original, so can't take that away from him. And of course, I just love his speech. Well, if I had known I was going to win this award, I would have put that eye patch on 30 years ago. That is kind of funny if you think about it. Whereas that one feels more like a normal western, this one does not really have that feeling. Oh, you went out of the room already? A second distraction. There you go. Because, like the first one, this one is about revenge, but from what I've heard, this one you really do sense more of, nothing but a drive for revenge from our main character, Matty Ross, played in this movie by Haley Steinfeld, which she does a good performance. She deserves to be nominated, but the thing that pisses me off is that they nominated her for Best Supporting. Academy? I hate to break this to you, but she's the freaking main character of the movie. I don't think that's supporting, do you? Imagine if in a Rambo movie, Stallone gets nominated, but he gets nominated for Best Supporting. Well, not only Rambo is the main character, but he's the title character. You get my point? Granted, technically, if you're going to say there's a title character, it would be Rooster, because he's the one described with True Grit, but still. Maddie is the main character of both this movie and the original novel. If I remember correctly, the novel is written from her point of view, or narrated by her, just kind of like how this movie has certain narrations at points. But still, she's the main character. So best supporting. Are you trying to do this just because she's a child actress and this is her first role? Hey, that worked when you did it with Abigail Breslin, because from what I remember, that movie, she on the road because of her, but she's only a minor character in the big scheme of the plot. But with the movie where she's she's the main female character, does not work, Academy, as my late grandfather might say. Now, back to the plot. Maddie Ross is our main character. The reason she's driven for revenge is that her father, on a buying trip, is murdered by Tom Chaney, played by Josh Brolin, one of his hired hands, who kills him, steals 2 of his California gold pieces, and skedaddles. She goes to collect the body, and then inquires with the sheriff about a search for Chaney, and then she was told he's fled into Indian territory and that no sheriff or authority would go there. And she inquires about a U.S. Marshal, and he gives 3 recommendations, and based on what he says, she goes to hire Rooster Cogburn, played by Jeff Bridges, which the first time we see him, he's in the latrine, which is kind of a funny intro if you think about it. Could you imagine if, I don't know if they did that with the John Wayne movie, but it's a funny thought. Go away. Oh, I finally get to use my John Wayne impression. Go away. Okay, I sucked that time, but yeah, that'd be Odie's response if he was in the latrine and someone knocked on it. There's a doggy in here! Anyway. After some back and forth, she finally manages to get Cogburn to take the offer. I know this is one thing from the original too, in the Wayne film, because I did see that part of the film. And around the same time, a Texas Ranger, named LaBeef, played by Matt Damon, arrives. And just from the first scene he talks, you can tell that he is a Texas Ranger through and through, but he's not really a hardened one. I mean, Chuck Norris's Walker Texas Ranger is tougher than this guy. This guy is trained, but he seems to be a little bit over his head, which that's one of the things I heard that's different from the original. But I have to say it kind of works if you think about it, because it breaks away from the typical Western thing of all the guys with guns being, you know, hardened. He's kind of hardened, but you could tell that at times he's over his head, like I said. Whereas with Rooster, you could tell that he's tough and stuff, but maybe his glory days are behind him. Which you get that as he goes along, because he brags at times. Now, eventually, after some back and forth, they start their search, and of course they meet a bunch of colorful characters, and I guess you can guess eventually they do run into Tom Chaney. I'm not going to spoil how. And then, of course, the ending of this movie is what makes it a lot different from the original adaptation, other than tone and some stuff. I'm not going to spoil it, but it does really make the character Maddie a little bit more interesting because of how the rest of her life turns out. We don't see all of it, but we see enough. We get the ending of it, and for what you described, you can tell that her desire for revenge maybe didn't really affect all of her life, but it had an impact on the rest of her life. So I guess it's kind of, I guess you could take there's a moral there, it's a cautionary tale that if you're going to go for revenge, don't go for it all the way, or try to make sure that it's in increments, or don't let revenge rule your life to the point that you turn out like Kratos. Those of you who play God of War, you get my reference, but so I thought it was a good moral, and it kind of worked for this movie. And the acting performances, Jeff Bridges, I say he deserved the Oscar nomination for this movie. The reason I don't think he won is because he, after being nominated many times, he won it the previous year. But it's actually kind of cool that two different adaptations of a movie, one of their main actors gets nominated, playing the same character, get nominated for the same award. The only other films that come to mind that something like that happened was the Godfather films, where Brando and De Niro both won the Oscar for playing the same guy. Of course, different scenario, but that's the only thing I have to compare it to. And of course, all the Oscar nominations it got, I could see, like best costumes. The costumes in this movie actually are pretty cool. Cinematography, it's shot very well. The reason it didn't get best score, though, which if you listen to the score, you're like, why didn't this get best score? Now, that was one of the complaints I had last year when I heard it, and that's because he uses gospel music at certain times in the score. Ooh, gospel music, we can't nominate it if it's not all original. I thought the gospel music fit, not to just nominate it for the original stuff. And then, of course, the secondary characters in the movie, they do a good job. Like, of course, Josh Brolin, he's not in the movie that much, but he does a pretty good job as Tom Chaney. Of course, the guy who plays his boss, I thought he was pretty good. And then, of course, one of the weirdest side characters is a guy that is simply being known as the Bear Guy, and that's because he wears a bear skin and he's a dentist. It's just something I want to know. What's his story? Why did he come to wear a bear skin? It'd be funny to see. I'd like to see a spin-off about his character, the Bear Guy. Or if, yeah, that'd be a very interesting question. Yeah, cast Rutger Hauer as his partner. That'd be cool. Yes, see Rutger in the Wild West with a shotgun. Of course, that would never happen, but it'd be cool. And then, direction by the Coen brothers. I thought they did a good job as directing. I'm surprised. Did they get directing? Yeah, they did. Which I don't remember who won last year. I know the year before the Oscar was won by Jimmy Cammy's ex-wife, which I guess that's the reason he was pissed. Not only did he lose, but he lost to his ex-wife. But still, that's kind of funny. I could say this is one of those films that, like I said before, deserved the nominations. Trying to think of what else I could talk about, because I think I've covered all the bases. Acting, story, score, direction, cinematography. Editing, if there's the few action scenes, it's not really shaky cam. I mean, sometimes the camera will move a little bit, but it's not like, it's like more like scanning. So it worked. The way the scenes are lit worked, and there is some humor in it, which I could tell you it does work, because remember I did see this with an audience, and people did laugh when they were supposed to. And of course there's that thing from the trailer. I thought you were going to say the sun was in your eye. Or should I say, your eye. It does sound like a stupid joke, but the way it's used in the movie is actually kind of funny. Because one of the things that Cogburn and the Beef, they seem like they're trying to make the other sound bad in the eyes of the girl, which I thought was actually kind of funny. That one of them even points it out, which makes it makes it a little bit funnier. And also it points out the fact, it also goes to show, it's one of the examples that Cogburn's glory days probably are behind him, not only because he lost the eye, but
of course, even he might be over his head, he is still battle hardened, because he is a Texas Ranger. They don't just make you a Texas Ranger for no thing. But then again, as Maddie says in the movie, that means nothing out here in Arkansas. Anyway, my rating for True Grit, I have to say 5 out of 5, because I can't really think of anything wrong with the movie. If there's anything, it's that there is one minor use of CGI, but I can see why they did it, and that's snakes at the end. I mean, I know the original they used it, but it'd be kind of dangerous to use a rattlesnake in that instance. You guys seen the movie, know what I'm talking about.